Welcome back to the channel. This will be the predicted lineups for Gameweek 3 in Fantasy Premier League, and you can see my scoreline predictions on screen. Chelsea 1, Fulham 0, and Cole Palmer will miss out, as I'll discuss later on in this podcast. Manchester United 2, Burnley 0, Tottenham Hotspur 3, Bournemouth 2, Sunderland 1, Brentford 2, Wolves 1, Everton 1, Leeds and Newcastle in a 2-2 draw, that is my prediction. Brighton 1, Manchester City 3, Nottingham Forest 2, West Ham 0, Liverpool 1, Arsenal 1, and Aston Villa 2, Crystal Palace 1. You'll see my final predictions, the top 10 captains, and the clean sheet odds in tomorrow's deadline stream. Be sure not to miss it by liking this video. Let's get it to the 200 likes and subscribe to the channel, hitting the notification bell in the process so you're always up to date with my content for both FPL and UCL Fantasy. The Champions League draw was made on Thursday, the 28th of August, and I'll be making some first drafts and some different types of videos for UCL Fantasy very soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that and check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the Championships, the Discord server, FPL League and Spotify. They can all be found in that description. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. You'll find my final predictions in tomorrow's deadline stream, and over the last two predicted lineups podcasts, I have gotten 21 out of 22 correct for Arsenal, and for last week anyway, against Leeds United, it was a full house there with 11 correct. David Raya in goal is a certainty against Liverpool. A back four of Jurrien Timber, Saliba, Gabriel and Calafiori also seems quite settled, and a midfield three of Zubimendi, Martin Odegaard and Rice will be preferred if Martin Odegaard is available. Madueke on the right to replace the injured Bukayo Saka, Eze on the left, and Gyökeres up front. So Mikel Arteta said this about Bukayo Saka: Bukayo is doing better, but he will be out for a few weeks. Unfortunately, it's not as bad as the previous one. No surgery. I don't know if he'll be available after the international break. Let's see how he evolves in the next few days. And whilst Odegaard isn't completely ruled out after picking up a shoulder injury versus Leeds, Marina will come in if needed, and Ben White and Norgard are also not ruled out for that clash against Liverpool. Timber should hold on to his place after producing 2 goals and 1 assist in Gameweek 2 versus Leeds United. Eze trained with the Arsenal squad for the entire week. Kai Havertz will be out for several weeks after having surgery, and Gabriel Jesus is on the grass doing individual training. Arsenal are closing in on the signing of Piero Hincapié from Bayer Leverkusen, with Kivior set to join Porto, so a lot is going on with the Gunners right now. And Aston Villa is another team that I've done fairly well in terms of predicting their lineup, with 20 correct out of 22 available. Emi Martinez will be in goal there against Crystal Palace at home. A back four of Cash, Konsa, who is now back from suspension, Tyrone Mings and Luka Dean is likely, with a midfield pivot of Tielemans and Onana, with Kamara ruled out for the next couple of weeks. Daniel Marlin, McGinn, Rodgers and Watkins is my predicted front four, but Daniel Marlin hasn't started a Premier League game so far this season, despite having an incredible summer with a lot of great performances, goals and assists there in those friendlies. So Kamara had a hamstring injury, so he's going to miss 3 weeks. Initial scans show it's a minor issue that he picked up against Brentford, but there is hope he will return for the first game after the international break against Everton away. But Aston Villa remain top of the FDR until Gameweek 8, but a lot of people are selling Morgan Rodgers and Ollie Watkins, and we could see them fall in price very soon. The third team, even though some would argue they should be first, is Bournemouth, and I've gotten them spot on so far this season with 22 correct out of 22 available. Both Christie and Kluivert made their returns from injuries in Gameweek 2 and played 24 and 12 minutes respectively. Both Kluivert and Christie started in the midweek 2-0 defeat against Brentford in the Carabao Cup. Lewis Cook's suspension is over, but he is still injured. So my predicted lineup has Petrovic in goal and Adam Smith as the right back, with Araujo currently injured, Diakate and Senesi in central defence, and Troffer on the left-hand side, Scott and Adams in the midfield, Semenyo and Brooks as the wingers, and then Tavernier just behind Evanesson, who has underperformed so far this season. But Bournemouth have decent fixtures, and I think Semenyo is one of the best midfielders in Fantasy Premier League right now. Brentford is a team I haven't done too well in compared to the others, with 18 correct predictions out of 22. Kelleher will be in goal. Coyote, Collins, Vandenberg and Lewis Potter is my predicted backline, with Henderson and Yarmouk in central midfield. Then we've got Danga Ouattara, who scored on his debut on the right-hand side, Kevin Schade on the left, Damsgaard just behind Igor Thiago in a decent lineup there for Brentford, who are in decent form now actually after that 2-0 win against Bournemouth in the Carabao Cup, and also an impressive 1-0 victory against Aston Villa. So Danga Ouattara got his first start straight away and also repaid Keith Andrews' faith with a goal. Lewis Potter replaced Rico Henry at left back and had a good game, so I think he'll keep his place. Wissa will again miss out in Game Week 3. He is heavily linked with Newcastle still, despite their big signing that I'll talk about later on. And Janelt is ruled out for Brentford once again. The next team is Brighton with 20 correct predictions out of 22. Verbruggen in goal with Vifa, Van Heck, Dunk and De Kuyper seems quite settled, but that could change very soon, especially in that right back position. Baleba and Ayari have been solid in the midfield, with Minter and Matoma on the wings, and O'Reilly behind Danny Welbeck, because we got an update about Jorginho Rutter by Fabian Hürstler after their 6-0 win in midweek, and Rutter missed out in Game Week 2 due to an injury and also missed the midweek game against Oxford United. So Hürstler said that Jorginho Rutter wasn't involved. We would have liked to, so it might be that Sunday is a close thing. I am unsure. There is a chance that Rutter is available, but he might come off the bench. I don't think he'll start over Welbeck or O'Reilly, but he can play in both of those positions, and his versatility will be key for Brighton this season. And I think Vifa could lose his place eventually to Kadioglu, Veltman, Boscagli and Coppola. All of them can play as a right back, even though it's not their first choice position by trade. You could argue that's not the case with Veltman, but we have seen several price falls for these Brighton assets, like Matoma, who is down to 6.4 million. Minter is now 5.9, and Danny Welbeck has gone down to 6.4. With Burnley, I've got an 18 correct out of 22. Dubravka should start in goal, and a back four of Walker, Ekdal, Estev and Hartman. Ogochukwu in central midfield with Cullen, who scored in Game Week 2. Also, Bryn Larson on the right, Jadon Anthony on the left, and then Hannibal Miebri just behind Lau Foster. But that could well change with Broja and Fleming featuring in midweek in the Carabao Cup. Ogochukwu got his first start in Game Week 2 and had a solid game. Son could challenge for a place in the starting 11 ahead of Bryn Larson. He also scored in the Carabao Cup midweek. Broja, Humphreys and Twansebe all returned to action in the midweek cup game, but are unlikely to start just yet. Scott Parker confirmed on Friday that there are no issues ahead of Game Week 3, or new issues anyway. Maxim Estev confirmed on Instagram that his issue was only a cramp, so he should be available in Game Week 3. Now with Chelsea, I've also gone 19 out of 22 correct, so quite similar to my Burnley predictions, and I think it will be Robert Sanchez in goal, Reece James, Chalobah, Tosin Adarabioyo and Cucurella in that defence, Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo in the midfield, Estevao on the right, Neto on the left, and Joao Pedro just behind the lap. And Maresca said this about Cole Palmer on Friday morning. He is out for tomorrow's game. With Cole, we need to see day by day. With Lavia and Badiashile, I don't think they'll be back after the international break. And Palmer has also not been called up to the England squad. Jackson won't be selected as he is looking for his options elsewhere in the transfer market. Tosin started against West Ham after missing in Game Week 1 due to a minor issue, and Levi Cole is out for most of the season with an ACL injury, and Chelsea's fixtures remain decent. Now, Crystal Palace are quite active in the transfer market, and Mark Gay could still leave the club. They just lost Eze, of course, to Arsenal, but Dean Henderson in goal is quite stable. The same goes for Chris Richards, who had a bit of an injury scare recently, Lacroix, and potentially Mark Gay in that defence, with Wharton and Kamada in the midfield, Munoz and Mitchell as the wing-backs, Ismail Assar, Devaney and Mateta as the front line. With Eze leaving, I think Devaney will take that spot as he did in Game Week 2, and the injury to Will Hughes could push Kamada to a deeper position, and that clears the pathway for Devaney, a 4-point fouling midfielder in FPL. Kamada is back fit, but Will Hughes is a doubt for Game Week 3. Chris Richards appears to have shaken off a swollen ankle reported after last night's match. The likes of Edouard, Riyad, Doucouré and Nketiah are all ruled out, and Crystal Palace have signed Yeremy Bino from Villarreal and 19-year-old centre-back JD Canvot from Toulouse, and there could be some changes to their starting 11. The same goes for Everton, who have been very active in the transfer market recently, and I've gotten 20 out of 22 correct. And yes, for Crystal Palace, I got it spot on so far. Let's see if that continues. But Jordan Pickford in goal, O'Brien, Tarkowski, Keane, and Mikalenko, who could return against Wolves, and that would push James Garner to a central midfield position again, alongside Idrissa Gana Gueye. Ndai on the right, who scored against Brighton in Game Week 2. Grealish on the left, who got 2 assists in his first start for Everton. Dewsbury Hall as the attacking midfielder, and it's either Tierno Barry or Beto up front. I'm leaning towards Barry, but neither have impressed so far this season. And Mikalenko got injured in the final preseason game. Gunner played as a left back in Game Weeks 1 and 2, but I think Mikalenko will come back in now. And we got an update by David Moyes on Friday, and he said he hopes Mikalenko is ready to start versus Wolves after making his return from injury in the midweek cup game. Branthwaite, Asnu and Patterson are still out, and Dibbling has joined the Toffees, and he made his debut in the Carabao Cup during midweek as well. The next team, I've done a little bit worse in terms of the predictions with Fulham, 18 out of 22, Berleno in goal, and a back four of Tete, Anderson, Bassi and Sessegnon, but it's quite difficult because both Sessegnon and Robinson are now available and we could see a few alterations. Now, Harry Wilson is a bit of a doubt right now. He'll be yellow flagged in FPL very soon, and we could see Sessegnon play as the right winger and Robinson in that left-back spot. The central midfield should be Sandenberg and Lukic, with Josh King, another 4-point family midfielder in FPL, starting as the attacking midfielder. It will be on the left, and Rodrigo Muniz up front, but Smith Rowe could also play in some of these positions, particularly as the attacking mid, and he scored, of course, against Man United as a substitute, so that could be something else to monitor over the coming weeks. And Harry Wilson is Marco Silva's only injury doubt out of the lunchtime kickoff against Chelsea. The winger's injury is nothing serious though, and he could be available for Saturday morning. Now, Josh King played in the number 10 position ahead of Smith Rowe in the first 2 games, but I think that could be another possible modification that Marco Silva delves into, and I think the Sessegnon, Wilson and Robinson kind of trio could also lead to some changes from Game Week 2 to 3, and it all depends on Harry Wilson's fitness. He was incredible, of course, in the summer. Now, Leeds United should start Perry in goal and the back four of Bogle, Rodon and either Biol or Strauch, but I think Biol will take that place and Leeds will make one change from that 5-0 loss against Arsenal. They also suffered a defeat in the Carabao Cup on penalties. Goodmanson should be the left back with a midfield three of Gruev, Longstaff and Stack, and a front three of Daniel James, Nonto, and it's between Piru and Calvert-Lewin. Both of them had terrible games in midweek and both of them missed penalties in the shootout. Now, Ampadu is ruled out until the international break, and Gruev took his place in Game Week 2 and should start again. Rodon and Strauch started as centre-backs against Arsenal, and I think Biol will take that spot. Both Nemecha and Okafor started in the midweek cup game and will be pushing for the first team soon, but Okafor is a doubt with a groin problem, and Daniel Farke provided more updates, of course, in his press conference. He said Noah Okafor spoke about groin problems after the last game. Everyone else had no problems. Noah is the only major doubt at the weekend, so I think it's safe to say he won't start against Newcastle. And with Liverpool, so far it's 21 out of 22, and with Leeds it's the same number as well. With my predictions, I think Alisson will start in goal, and Conor Bradley is poised to start right back against Arsenal. Kanate, Van Dijk and Kerkez is a solid defence on paper, but they have struggled to deal with transitions since the summer actually. Gravenberch and Szoboszlai is the likely midfield partnership, with Salah on the right, Wirtz in the central attacking midfield position, Gakpo on the left. He has been Liverpool's best player so far this season. And to be fair, you could say that's Ekitike. Those two have been carrying that Liverpool team so far, and they have so many options on the bench as well, and they could add yet another one in Alexander Isak over the coming days. Frimpong will be out until the end of the international break due to a hamstring injury, and Curtis Jones played ahead of McAllister in Game Week 2 as the Argentine wasn't fully fit, and Arne Slot provided updates on Van Dijk, Bradley and McAllister in Friday's press conference. No, I don't think so. When asked about new fitness concerns, I think the positive is that Conor Bradley only had 1 or 2 training sessions before the Newcastle game. He has trained this week for the entire week. Well, not the whole week, as there are still 2 days to go. McAllister has also started training again, so I don't think we had any injuries coming out of that game at Newcastle. No, and Virgil is also okay, so it's looking positive for the Premier League champions. With Manchester City, I've gotten 18 out of 22 correct, and there is a major positive update about Reine Nuri, which is why I've got him in the starting 11, but it isn't absolutely guaranteed, and the likes of Nathan Ake could play in that position if needed, and Gvardiol is ruled out. Now, Trafford versus Edison will be difficult to predict against Brighton away, but I'm going to stick with Trafford for now, and the back four of Matheus Nunes, Ruben Dias, Stones and Nuri, but a lot of Man City fans think that Kusanov could start alongside John Stones. The midfield three is likely to be Nico Gonzalez, Reinders and Bernardo Silva, but if Rodri is ready to start, he will take that place as the defensive midfielder. I think Foden will start on the right. He has a brilliant record against Brighton. Doku on the left and Erling Haaland up front. Nuri was injured in Game Week 2 against Tottenham and was subbed off after 22 minutes. However, he has been named in the Algeria squad and could be available for the Brighton fixture. The doctor said it's not serious. He has trained to join the group. Man City plan to play him in the next match, and Pep Guardiola said he's fine. So it's looking very positive about Reine Nuri. Gvardiol was left out of Croatia's squad and is unavailable. Foden and Rodri came on as subs against Tottenham and should be fit for Game Week 3. The fixtures don't look particularly great until Game Week 6 when Man City host Burnley, but it's still looking quite positive for them in terms of injuries, and they've got a stacked squad with the numbers. But the other side of Manchester, it's not looking too good right now after their loss on penalties against Grimsby Town. Bayern should start in goal with a back three of Yoro, De Ligt and Luke Shaw. The wing-backs will be Amad Diallo and Dorgu, in my opinion, and a central midfield partnership of Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes. And I think the front three will be Mbeumo, Cunha and Sesko, who played the full 90 against Grimsby Town. And another possibility is that Mount starts as the left inside forward once again and Cunha plays up front. But I think United will respond against Burnley. My predictions haven't been that great so far with the Red Devils, with 18 out of 22 correct, and the goalkeeper position has been a bit of a difficult one to kind of gauge over the last couple of weeks. But I think Bayern is currently the first choice until United sign a new goalkeeper. The next team is Newcastle, and they've got plenty of injury doubts, but there are some positive updates after the Friday press conference. Nick Pope in goal, and a back four of Trippier, Schär, Burn and Livramento is possible. The likes of Botman, Lewis Hall and new signing Chow are also ready to come in if needed, and Sandro Tonali remains an injury doubt, but things are looking much more positive on that front. And I think Bruno Guimaraes and Jacob Ramsey will start alongside him, with Elanga on the right, Barnes on the left and Osula, a 5-point family and forward who scored against Liverpool, up front. Newcastle could also do something a little bit different with one of Harvey Barnes or Elanga as the striker, and then introduce Jacob Murphy to the starting 11. So that's another possibility that the Toon Army have at their disposal. Anthony Gordon is suspended for 3 games after receiving a direct red card against Liverpool. Schär was subbed off with a head injury in the same game, and new signing Jacob Ramsey came on as a substitute in Game Week 2 and will be pushing for a start. And Eddie Howe said the following: Tonali is battling to play this week, while Joelinton should be fit after the international break, and Fabian Schär is available after following the concussion protocols. And if Tonali isn't fully fit to start against Leeds away, they'll put Lewis Miley as the holding midfielder. And Newcastle have signed Nick Waldemade from Stuttgart for £69 million, and he should start against Wolves at home after the international break. I got 21 out of 22 correct with Newcastle, and a full house with Nottingham Forest, who have had a stable starting 11 so far this season, with Matt Sells in goal, a back four of Aina, Milenkovic, Murillo and Nico Williams, a midfield pivot of Sangare and Elliot Anderson, Ndoye on the right, Hudson-Odoi on the left, Gibbs White as the attacking midfielder, and Chris Wood up front. New signings James McAtee, Amari Hutchinson, Igor Jesus and Kalimuendo all came on as substitutes in Game Week 2. And another new signing in Douglas Luiz is unlikely to replace Sangare straight away, as he'll be building up his fitness. Long term, he could become a starter in that Forest midfield. Nicolas Dominguez is ruled out until autumn after his recent knee surgery. He was poised to start actually alongside Elliot Anderson this season, but that won't be the case anytime soon. With Sunderland, I've gotten 21 out of 22 correct. The big FPL update from the Black Cats is that Ballard is injured for 2 to 3 weeks. He went up in price to 4.6 million after a 17-pointer against West Ham, but he was subbed off after just 8 minutes against Burnley. So the starting 11 should be Rufus in goal, Hume, Mukiele, Alderete and Mandava as the defensive line, Siddiqui, Diarra and Jacques in the midfield, Talby on the right, Edingra on the left and Mayenda up front. And Sunderland have decent fixtures up until Game Week 7. The next team is Tottenham Hotspur. I've gotten 19 correct out of 22 here. Madison will be out for most of the season due to an ACL injury. Kulusevski is also unavailable. And while the doggy is back in training, it's unlikely that he will start. So Vicario in goal, Bodra on the right, who just went up in price to 5.6 million. Romero and Van der Ven and Jed Spence forms a decent defensive line. João Paulinho at the base of the midfield, with Pape Sarr and Bentancur on either side, and the wingers should be Kudus and the informed Brennan Johnson, and Richarlison is scoring goals in the early part of this season. We've got 2 teams left. One of them is West Ham. I've gotten 20 correct out of 22, and Amanson should start in goal despite a torrid start to his West Ham career. Todibo, Kilman and Agerd in the defence, and 2 of them have gone down in price with good reason. Wan-Bissaka on the right, Diouf on the left, Soucek and Ward-Prowse in central midfield, and Lucas Paqueta as the attacking midfielder, behind 2 strikers in Jarrod Bowen, who now costs 7.8 million, and Callum Wilson. I think he'll start over Fulkrug, but that isn't set in stone. Graham Potter has confirmed that West Ham are pretty much as they were regarding injuries, so Luis Guillermo and Crescencio Somerville remain out. They have signed Mateus Fernandes, who was at Southampton beforehand, and a 4-point family midfielder in Potts could also start in central midfield over the likes of Ward-Prowse or Thomas Soucek, and Walker Peters will be pushing for a start ahead of Wan-Bissaka after providing an assist against Wolves in the Carabao Cup. And speaking of which, that is the final Premier League team I'll cover today, and I've got a 19 correct out of 22. Vitor Pereira stated in the press conference before the West Ham game that Kijana Hoover suffered a knee injury against Bournemouth at the weekend, but he insisted it wasn't serious. And if he were to miss out, one of Rodrigo Gomez or Chichawa will start as the right wing back, and we saw that substitution being made in Game Week 2, of course, and I have gone for him in that right wing back spot, with Jose Sarr in goal, a defensive line of Doughty, Agbadu and Bueno, who would replace the suspended Totti Gomez, Wolf as the left wing back, Andre and Joao Gomez in central midfield, and the three forwards should be Manetzi, Arias and Strand Larsen, but he is a doubt, and Vitor Pereira said the following: he's dealing with a small injury problem and I hope he can play tomorrow. Reports indicate that Newcastle will focus on signing Visser, as Strand Larsen is of a similar profile to their new striker Nick Waldemades. So I think with Strand Larsen, it's not a guarantee he plays against Everton at home, but if he is fully fit and his mind isn't kind of elsewhere and he wants to push for a move, he should start in Game Week 3, but it just isn't a guarantee at this moment in time. Hwang Hee-chan will likely take Strand Larsen's place if the Norwegian is ruled out, and Totti Gomez is suspended for one game after his sending off against Bournemouth. So that completes all 20 Premier League teams, and it factors in the press conferences on the Friday, and if there are any other updates, they will be factored in for tomorrow's deadline stream, and you're going to be well prepared for Game Week 3 and the rest of the season. If you want to see more Predicted Lineups podcasts in the future, then let me know down in the comment section below, show support to this video, and also give more feedback, as always. We have reached the end of this podcast, but there are two further updates about certain players, and one of them is Kai Havertz. He's expected to be out for between 8 to 12 weeks following surgery, and with Aston Villa, both Kamara and Onana are ruled out. So you'll see the updated graphic for my Aston Villa predicted lineup in this video and also in the deadline stream tomorrow. Things change so quickly in football and FPL, it can be hard to keep up, but I've done my best to provide all the information you need with suspensions, injuries, and possible modifications for all these managers, depending on tactics and their opponents as well. And it can be quite difficult to kind of sustain the Predicted Lineups podcast throughout the entire season, on top of UCL fantasy content, which will be headed your way very soon. And every single week for FPL, I do transfer tips, wildcard teams, and of course discuss my own team selection as well, on top of the deadline streams and reactions. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or find it insightful, then like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also hit the notification bell so you're always up to date with my content, whether it's for FPL or UCL Fantasy, which will return very soon. Follow me on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the championships. For links to my videos, amongst many other perks, you can click the join button on YouTube and type in patreon.com/FPL Dylan. There's my Discord server, the FPL League, FPL Challenge, and also my Spotify. Leave a 5-star review on my podcast. It goes a long way to supporting me and the channel. And we're going to close in on 35,000 subscribers very soon. Keep your eyes peeled for UCL fantasy content and the reaction stream this weekend.